Hopefully the man don't try me. Let's be clear. Don't cross the line. No, I'm keeping it real. Because, you know, you get in there and it get competitive and he might say some shit he don't want to say. You know, the reason I wasn't going to do the verses is because I'm a nasty winner and an even worse loser. Don't cross the line.
This is AP on the spot. Yo, let's just call it for what it is. This versus is right here is going to be not intense like that. I think that's more or less Fat Joe just stirring the pot a little bit. I don't think this versus is going to be nowhere near as, let's just get this out the way from the gate. First of all, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do me a favor. Come on, do your boy a favor. Do yourself a favor. Please subscribe if you like, if you choose. But this is just all Fat Joe just blowing smoke, you know, to try to get us to just amp it up a little bit. You know, this is nowhere near going to be as a heated versus as the Locks and Dipset was. You know, you will not see, you know, Fat Joe and Ja Rule having any kind of exchanges to where somebody's taking off somebody's scarf and throwing it down, getting up in somebody's face, calling, you know, rappers words, you know what I mean? Like, you know, a lot of kind of profanity being used versus, you know, each other, getting up in each other's face. Like, you're not going to see that. You know what I'm saying? This is going to be one of those verses kind of like how we had when Redman and Method Man did their verses. This is going to be a versus of camaraderie, you know, a friend. Fat Joe and Ja Rule are friends, you know, so, and, you know, Fat Joe has already said that, yo, we cool, our families are cool, we good friends, extremely good friends, so you're not going to get no drama in this one. You're just going to get two dudes up there celebrating each other's catalog. Now, when I first heard that this was going to be Fat Joe and Ja Rule, I'm like, I would rather see Fat Joe go up again. It's a good matchup. It's a good one. It's a good matchup. You know, their catalogs Fat Joe's catalog is straight up better than Ja Rule's, no doubt about that. And we're gonna get into that. But you know, when I first heard it, I was like, when I first heard this versus announced, I was like, you know, I would rather see Fat Joe go up against in a versus somebody like Rick Ross. You know, if Rick Ross, it was talk that Rick Ross might be doing a second versus, or, you know, maybe Fat Joe could go up against Ross or Busta Rhymes or somebody that cloth. But this makes sense. This does make total sense. And even though Ja Rule, let's be clear here, hasn't had a hit or anything resembling of a radio smash or radio airplay in about 17 years, 18 years, 17 years, it's still formidable. Because when Ja Rule was, you know, his 5-year run he had from like 99 to like the early 2000s, around 2004, 2005-ish, that 5-year run was, you know, dope. Nobody is you know, the only person that's really rivaling that early 2000s run that Ja had was, you know, pretty much 50 Cent. You know, it's a couple other artists out there like Jay and, you know, but Ja Rule was all over the radio. You couldn't go nowhere without hearing Ja Rule all the time. You know what I'm saying? I've never been a real big Ja Rule dude like that. Don't get me wrong. I like some of his street joints. You know, I Got a Story to Tell. That's probably like my favorite Ja Rule song of all time, featured on the Belly soundtrack. But Ja Rule got the little street joints too. You know, Murder Inc. You know, with DMX and Jay-Z. So Ja Rule got the street joints, but Ja is, we all know Ja got the commercial joints, the joints for the ladies, you know, the massive joints that you heard him talk about for the ladies. You know, we got Holla Holla, Put It On Me. I mean, Ja's catalog, you know, it's definitely, Ja doesn't get the props he deserves now in 2021 because he's kind of looked upon as like a joke, you know, considering everything, how 50 Cent just pretty much totally obliterated and ended his career. But Ja Rule got joints. I mean, Ja Rule got Holla Holla, Put It On Me, the Ashanti joints he got, Always on Time. Between Me and You with Christine Milan, that was the joint right there. He got Down Chick, I Cry For You. I'm Real featuring J-Lo with J-Lo on it. J-Lo featuring Ja Rule. What else Ja got? Ja got New York featuring Jadakiss and Fat Joe. He got Clap Back. You know, that wasn't a massive joint like that, but I mean, that beat was knocking. Living It Up. Mesmerize, Wonderful. I mean, Ja Rule got some serious radio joints from back in the day. How they're gonna sound playing now in 2020, I don't know. You know, I don't think Ja Rule's material has really aged well. That's just my personal opinion compared to, you know, a lot of artists, like from what you hear from like 20 years ago. I don't think Ja's music has aged very well, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And Fat Joe, of course, I mean, what can you say about Joe? Fat Joe got the streets on lock. Fat Joe, you can't say enough about his career, from his first album, Represent, that came out in 1993, some 28 years ago. Fat Joe has been doing this thing for close to 30 years. He's probably the most consistent MC rapper in the game, next to the likes of Jay-Z and Nas. And there's a couple other MCs in there that I'm forgetting, like you know, can't forget about Jadakiss has been consistent, you know, but Fat Joe is, you know, you look up consistency, you're gonna see Fat Joe's name and picture right next to that word in the dictionary. Do we still use dictionaries? No, we don't. But if you Google it, if you Google the word consistency, Fat Joe is going to be right there next to that word. A Don Cartagena album was fire. Crack Attack was my joint. John Blaze was my joint. Jealous One's Envy. He had Success. The premiere remix to Success was dope. And he introduced us to Big Pun on that album as well. That was the first time we ever heard Big Pun, was on the Jealous One's Envy album in 1995. All or Nothing. 2005, he dropped that. So Much More was my joint on there. Y'all Wanna Live My Lifestyle on Jealous One Still Envy. That album was fire. I mean, Loyalty, Elephant in the Room was a sleeper. Dope album, quality album that Fat Joe came out with in the early kind of mid to mid 2000, around 2008. Elephant in the Room had a couple joints on there I liked. It was a nice album. Me, Myself, and I, which had Make It Rain on there, was a nice album. As I mentioned, Represent, his very first album. Then he came out with the Dark Side volumes 1, 2, and 3. That were sleeper albums from a couple years ago. I thought those albums were dope. You know, then he had the Terror Squad albums. The first Terror Squad album was a dope album. Bring It On was my joint off that album. And then he had the Lean Back classic song, probably one of the most hardest joints. You know, that was the Lean Back was the anthem. I mean, listen, there's nothing you can say. To this day, Scott Storch on that track, that song is still undefeated in 2021. So Fat Joe, his catalog is crazy. I mean, then he had the Fat Joe's got everything for everybody. He got the club joints. He got the streets on lock with the street joints. Quietly, Fat Joe, some of his street joints are undefeated. I mean, if you want to go toe for toe with street joints, Fat Joe got them. Where we want to go with this, we got the club joints, we got the joints for the ladies, we got the joints with the big features on it with R. Kelly, the We Thuggin'. A lot of people don't want to even bring up R. Kelly in 2021, but We Thuggin', ooh, that was R. Kelly in the video, ooh, yo, that was the joint. Then he had Crush Tonight with Genuine. I remember, you know, being a DJ years ago, and that song was getting played constantly, you know, all the time. You know, that song was getting massive amounts of spins. So Fat Joe literally have joints for every era. You want to go to the 90s, Fat Joe got them joints. You want to go to the early 2000s, Fat Joe got them joints. You want to go closer to the mid 2000s, he got the Make It Rain joint, the massive joint with Lil Wayne. So we take it to the mid 2000s. Then he has the joints, you know, most recently that he's came out with. Then Fat Joe has had the joints most recently that he's came out with, all the way up. So listen, Fat Joe's career is stellar career. I'm taking Fat Joe with this Versus win, no problem, hands down. Don't get me wrong, Ja got the joints, and I'm not discrediting Ja Rule. We will not slander Ja Rule, even though Ja Rule. We will not slander Ja Rule. We will not slander Ja Rule. Yeah, man. Listen, even though, like I previously stated, I never was the huge Ja Rule dude or like that. Even back in the day when he was at the height of his career, never really got into Ja like that. Even though I respected him, Ja Rule got hits. Ja Rule got bangers. So we can't sit up here and deny Ja Rule's legacy. Let's give this man his props. You know what I'm saying? Ja Rule's legacy is cemented. It was just an era to where he was on top, and then, you know, he fell off after that. You know, nobody's reign lasts forever. Your reign on the top was short like leprechauns, like Biggie said. You know, I would rather have my reign be short than to have no rain at all. So I'm gonna give Ja Rule his props and say this is gonna be a good versus. It's not gonna be a lot of drama involved in this. But Fat Joe, this is clear. Fat Joe with the win on this versus. I know Ashanti's gonna be there. You know, Ashanti got like joints with both Fat Joe and Ja Rule. She got more songs with Ja Rule because they were both from Murder Inc. But Ashanti going like, I've been seeing the memes and everybody been making fun of Ashanti saying that she gonna be so tired and worn out. You know, this is pretty much an Ashanti versus because she gonna be on stage just as much as Fat Joe and Ja Rule because she got hits with both of them. So it's gonna be good to see Ashanti there. Anytime we get a chance to see Ashanti, yo, listen, sign me up for it. I can look at her 24/7, 7 days a week, every hour on the hour. That's right. Ashanti, you already know. Peace.